there are brands now who are talking about how can we get creators and their true understanding of community and audiences and those insights and instincts, and how can we use that to shape the development of new products and new product launches. Scale and relationships have to go hand in hand, and that's where you see good results.
So this and that.
This and that.
I love it. Tom, thank you so much for coming. I'm really excited for this podcast. The title is The Last 10 Years and the Next 10 Years of the Creator Economy from Pathfinder, Billion Dollar Boy. We're talking about how creator marketing has evolved from silo tactics to global full funnel growth engine, and where the next 10 years of innovation will take it.
Sounds good.
For the audience, if you could just do a quick name, job title, company, and then I can give a bit more color to that as well.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks so much for having me, Max. I'm Tom,
Pleasure.
Founder and Chief Innovation Officer at Billion Dollar Boy. We've been in the influencer marketing business since 2014, and the group consists of Billion Dollar Boy, which is a global agency, primarily based out of New York and London, but covering both regions and working internationally. A Companion, which is our tech platform, Creator CRM, and 529, which is a more recent venture, which is us embracing the creator entrepreneurs out there, building a community where they can come together and meet and look for professional advice and connect with brands.
I absolutely love all of those elements, and we'll have space to touch on all of them. But it really shows us how much opportunity there is. You guys have scaled and found new ways to add value to this space and help shape this space, and you continue to do so. And I think the update in your title is very representative of what you can bring to this world. The topics that we'll go into today, so there'll be 4 parts. We'll go into helping brands lead through the past 10 years of the creator revolution. Something you said in your recent post was that you're not just helping them adapt to change, but you help them actually lead change in this time. Part 2 will be the effectiveness journey for the last 12 months, the next 12 months, so sort of more zoomed into a shorter time frame. Part 3 will be innovation bets for the next 10 years, and then we'll close off with the creator era and a rapid fire this or that questions. Billion Dollar Boy is one of the originals, you pointed out, started in 2014, and largest influence marketing agencies operating globally, set up for scale and built to be the agency of record, and still is pushing the edge of what creator marketing can be. Tom, you founded Billion Dollar Boy, and across different stages of scale, you've led global strategy, you've overseen European operations, and now as Chief Innovation Officer for the group, you're shaping the roadmap for BDB, 529, and Companion. You've seen the industry evolve from scrappy creator briefs, remember we were talking about that in the last pod that we had, to brands building with creators at scale. I've got a couple of questions, but I want to dig into that space. So I want to know what's changed most in the past 10 years, what hasn't changed enough. And that old question, so when we last spoke, you said you're still being asked, where do creators sit in the funnel? Why is that still a question? And how do you help clients embed creators across the full journey, from awareness to action to advocacy? But moreover, really what I'm kind of interested in, this is more of a direction setter, is how have you helped your clients not just adapt, but lead through constant evolutions in the past 10 years?
Well, thank you for the very flattering introduction, Max. Yeah, I mean, right now I'm moving into this role that's focused on wider business strategy, pushing forward our innovation roadmap. We're obviously in a period of great change within advertising, and there's a need for that kind of consistent and diligent focus on what's next. From my perspective, obviously working in creator marketing, creators are, and their integration into brands marketing and media programs is a no-brainer, but and we should be looking at what's next. How do we take it further? How do we do more innovative and interesting things? But for some brands, they're still early on that journey, even though we're 10, 11 years into the industry being in existence. You've still got a lot of brands out there who are just sort of figuring things out, dipping their toes, versus the more established players out there who have already got an agency of record, a measurement partner like ThisThat, what have you. So I think in some senses everything has changed, and in others it hasn't. It really just depends on the client and business that you're working with.
The way in which you help brands adapt to influence marketing at scale now is a well-oiled machine. And you'll have different ways in which you can apply that to brands that already operate at scale, to brands that are new and wanting to invest in this, asking the questions of, like, where does a creator sit in the funnel?
Yeah.
Having been that Pathfinder, that I'm sure those operations that now are well-oiled machines has changed a lot in that. Could you walk us through a bit of that change and how you're able to support them to lead in this era?
I think that the best way to get internal stakeholders involved within these big corporations is to show the impact that the content can have, that working with creators can have on your programs, the types of creativity that they can generate and lead to. Some of our clients that we now work with, who are our biggest, most successful clients and are winning awards left, right, and centre for their work, started with a small test and learn innovation project campaign, and it was like, okay, we want to try this. We trust you guys to give it your all, but we need to have this proof point before we scale up. So I think that kind of test and learn project is can be really impactful. However, it's only really impactful if the stakeholders internally are also bought into this test and learn project. If it's just a team that is squirreling away trying to do something on their own and it's got no senior buy-in within a big organization, it's just gonna end. It's gonna begin and end as a test and learn. But if you've got buy-in already, and oftentimes that buy-in comes with measurement, which is obviously why we all work together. If you can show that beyond the vanity metrics what the work is doing, you're already half the way there.
Definitely see that in like this. The word like trial or test, I actually think falls quite short. Really should be seen as more of like a proof of concept, right? Like when you do that sort of test and learn approach, when you speaking to those senior stakeholders, you want to understand what success in the long term looks like. Those bigger programs, there's always on approaches, and you want to, if they just have a smaller budget, they want to test this out with, understand what is that success criteria, what does that look like, and then you can prove to them, proof of concept, that you can do that at scale. That makes a lot of sense. So that is the trick to how to bring them in, regardless of where they're at. Understand what the senior stakeholders want, find a way to be able to prove this out.
I think so. And look, there's also making these businesses feel comfortable. If they're still new to the creator marketing space, there are elements of like they just don't know or feel comfortable when they're not controlling every element of the work. And you can maintain a certain level of control within creator marketing, of course, and that will be to whatever your limit of comfortability or I guess risk or is. I mean, I wouldn't see it as risk, but obviously brands are typically quite risk averse, and the creator marketing landscape is such that you're not in complete control of the output and the narrative, and that's for good reason, because you're expecting your partners to come to you and bring recommendations on what's going to drive impact themselves, because they know the communities and audiences that they're dealing with. And obviously what we've seen with tests together and across our wider work, is that if you compare the kind of controlled assets that you produce with a certain brand and creator versus a less controlled asset from the same brand and creator, the results are staggeringly different in favor of the latter. So, I think we're in a space where creator content is being used across the funnel. It's being used for lots of different purposes, but the common theme, regardless of the brand objective, is if it's a true collaboration, it will work. If it's one side being heavy-handed over the other, it's less likely to have the desired impact that you expect. And let's be clear, like, the brand still needs to be direct with the creator about the output and results that they're expecting. It's not just about letting the creator run riot. It's just about putting some boundaries in place and guidelines and working together to get good output.
I want to touch on that a little bit when we come to the creator era piece as well, because that's a big flagship moment for talk track for you guys here at Cannes. That has actually been at the start of the year as well. But I love that human approach, whilst also making sure that you actually understand what value looks like, delivering that early on and setting them up for scale as they go forward. Something that I'm actually quite curious about, because you'll have seen this and the evolution of this, is that risk appetite. How is that? What was that like in 2014? What was that like in 2020? What is that like now? What different things changed that?
I mean, I think that one of the biggest changes is the kind of the scale that brands are willing to invest in and where they're willing to integrate creators' instincts and insights and their personality and being as well. I was at a talk yesterday from Alex Earle at the Microsoft Beach, and she was talking about how she desperately wants to embrace kind of being a creative founder and found a business. I was at another talk with Nielsen and Adweek, and the head of consumer home care at Unilever was talking about his desire to create a product with a creator. So maybe those two can come together and launch something. But I don't know how much she cares about cleaning. But not to go on a sidetrack, but I think that there are brands now who are talking about how can we get creators and their true understanding of community and audiences and those insights and instincts, and how can we use that to shape the development of new products and new product launches. And that's incredibly exciting. You've also got others where they're willing to integrate creators into as the sort of global ambassadors and faces of their campaigns across all media. Those things, and that's the kind of conversation that's happening now in 2025. If you were to look back in 2014, we wouldn't have seen that. We would have seen people having conversations of, should we try paying this creator $5,000 to see if they could do something on YouTube and just hold up a Coca-Cola can and talk about it. So they're very, very it's a massive change, massively meaningful change, and it just reflects the results that brands are seeing and getting out of creators. They wouldn't be doing this just for the hype. They're doing it because they've got proof points, and they've got those proof points through working with data forward agencies and measurement partners.
The question that I posed earlier was talking about why is it still a question that where creators sit in the funnel? But the irony of that is it's not just that they sit full funnel, but they're there the whole way. Yeah. They go beyond that. They can be involved in product development. And that's something you guys see with 529, that they truly are entrepreneurs as well. You touched on measurement. Let's use that as a way to move into part two, the effectiveness journey. Last 12 months, next 12 months. Effectiveness has really become a new North Star in the influencer marketing creator economy. What have you seen shift in how clients define and measure success?
I think it's obviously you've still got clients out there who prioritize output metrics and what you might consider like sort of less robust measurement. And that's useful to a certain extent for measuring how you're showing up versus competitors, and benchmarking is important. We obviously see that there are brands who really prioritize a kind of benchmarking tool or software like Tracker, or if they use other platforms, things like EMV, VIT. These are obviously metrics that are made up by these platforms. They don't really sort of have a real world value, but we understand why brands want to see how they show up. There's obviously many ways that you can measure that. And then there are other vanity metrics like engagement rate and things like this. You know, they're good for measuring how you show up versus competitors and whether you are getting a good standard of output from the creator, whether it's worth engaging in that conversation, and whether it's likely that you're going to have actual effectiveness and impact off the back of it. But really what matters is getting into the impact metrics, the effectiveness metrics, and those obviously vary enormously, and brands' ability to measure those things vary enormously. But you know, things like brand lift studies, integrating the creator outputs into your MMM or whatever econometric modeling that you do, can really demonstrate like actual pound for pound output, which is obviously crucial for having investment-led conversations with clients, and that's what we've been building a effectiveness culture at BDB to do, and we've done that both through education of our team, education of our clients that you can build impact-led programs and work, that it's not just about these sort of slightly more vanity metrics. And we've been able to do that also by building relationships with measurement partners who are able to provide, you know, independent third-party, robust measurement of the work that both the agency and the brands and the creators all trust to be true. And obviously that's what we work with you guys on in certain parts of our measurement matrix, and which covers the full funnel, and we will obviously work with ThisThat in certain parts of that, and that's been incredibly useful for us. You know, we've talked about the work that we've done with Sainsbury's Group and the results that's shown, and we just came back from we had an all agency meeting the other day where we showed an update of our effectiveness journey. We've increased our number of brand lift studies in the business by something like 1,500% in the last 24 months. And the results are actually really tangible. We also have measured the commercial impact that it's had on Billion Dollar Boys client relationships, and on one of our clients, the client spend's gone up 3,000% as a result of using these kinds of studies to demonstrate impact. So it's super important.
I love that. That high five is a symbol of not just our work, but the whole space working and building together. And it touches on what you said about brands investing into the space need to feel comfortable. And so it's not just delivering success and showing success that they might see and feel, but they can actually have some tangible output to prove that.
Yeah.
Why? So you spoke of like a steep increase in not just, well, you mentioned brand lift there as well, but I'm sure there's other elements of the matrix and the measurement that you're looking at. What do you think drives this new sense of urgency? Like, why is it more important than ever?
I think that, you know, we are at a inflection point in the industry where the traditional agencies are trying to figure out how they maintain, frankly, relevance in a world where the content creation model is being turned upside down, where you have had for generations centralized creativity, gatekeepers, creation of content, centralized distribution of content and advertising to audiences that are not diversified, that are homogenous in one place, watching linear television, easy to target with disruptive advertising in a blunt way. And you've now moved into a situation where audiences are completely diversified. They are consuming content all over the place. They are not sat down watching linear television at the same time, the same moment. They also don't particularly enjoy disruptive advertising, that they can't choose what they're viewing. They can't choose whether to engage with the work, and the advertising is not providing anything necessarily of direct value to the consumer, whether it be something that is useful and relevant to them or personalized to them, or something that they're genuinely entertained by. I think the reason why we're now at this point where impact is really important for our industry to communicate is that there's a massive opportunity now with the shifting sands to reshape what advertising is and reinvent what the advertising industry can look like and the value it provides to consumers. Creators are an incredible way of creating personalized content that resonates, is relevant to audiences and entertains. So they resolve a lot of these tensions that exist within the consumer to advertiser and brand dynamic. And with the disruption of AI alongside all of that, particularly AI content creation, that also has a massive impact on that kind of homogenized, centralized, creative narrative. I guess my point is, everything's to play for in this industry right now as it goes through a rapid shift, and those who are active in the creative marketing landscape are in a great position and opportunity to seize that. And I think brands are really listening, because they also understand that their kind of brand say approach is gonna change, but their others say approach, as some might call it, is just gonna evolve. It's not revolution. I think in the brand say space, it's revolution.
Themes that I'm hearing there as well. You mentioned like relevance is really important, but brands will always want to see those performance metrics to see how you stack up maybe against other agencies. Are you seeing tensions between brand thinking, performance thinking, especially when it comes to measurement? Are they clashing? Is there worlds in which they can work together? I imagine this is ever more pertinent as the influencer marketing budgets continue to scale as well.
I think it depends on the brand's approach to brand and performance. You've obviously got some businesses who, if it doesn't return something on first click, they don't think it's they don't think it's been a success, and that's a very short-termist approach. You've got these kind of two schools of thoughts of ROI being a short-term metric versus the impact of brand building over time, and that impact on long-term sales, and not just long-term sales but customer loyalty. So I think there's still a lot of conversation in both of those areas. I don't think that we've necessarily advanced as an industry in thinking about them in the same breath, and I think that we need to.
Love that. I think that ties neatly to part 3, innovation bets. So the next 10 years, you've just stepped into the Chief Innovation Officer role to focus on the group's wider strategy, innovation roadmap, strategic partnerships, and you're making some serious innovation bets. Strategic partnerships for Bill and the Boy, likes of ThisThat as part of that as well, among many others. You've got 529. I love how you describe it, which is more accurate. I've tried describing it as a cultural lab.
That sounds great.
Yeah?
I might borrow that.
You've got community, insider knowledge, exclusive events, funding opportunities. Like you've got the Creator Fund here this week as well. You've got Companion. Really, it puts you guys as a tech-forward space. You've got smart workflows. You've started integrating AI-powered automations with that. You've got performance measurement through that as well. Something that wasn't highlighted, but is also something that you guys do, Muse, the innovation unit. Was that absorbed by one of those? Is that its own thing, or?
Muse will be coming back for a 2.0 this year.
Nice.
Muse is more about how we innovate from a creative first angle. So what we did last year was we launched Muse with our work with AI creators, these creators on social media who generate and create content and express their creative point of view using AI, and they've built followings of consumers and of audiences as a result of doing that. And we worked with people like Loewe, Burberry, Versace, and others, and we're going to be evolving that this year, but more to come.
I wonder if you could enlighten us on your strategic vision across all those bets. What connects them? What does innovation mean to you, to Billion Dollar Boy?
I think you're right. Right now we've got three areas of focus from an innovation perspective. Companion is an incredible tech platform and tool. It's licensed by lots of different agencies and brands direct, and we also use it to power Billion Dollar Boy. Incredible, tools in there like SafeMatch, which is a AI-powered due diligence tool software. Great influencer discovery, great measurement, and we're obviously plugging in all of our measurement partners directly into the tool as well. So there's a lot to be done there. 529 is a great route for us. It's incredible the insights that we get from the creators, and obviously it broadens out what we do beyond just advertising to the wider creator economy. If you consider that the wider creator economy, according to Goldman Sachs, in 2027 will be a $500 billion industry, is currently a $300 billion industry. If you compare that to creator marketing, which is, according to the same sources, about a $30 billion industry, there's a lot of potential opportunity beyond the marketing and advertising landscape. So, with all the change that's happening in the advertising world, we think it's really interesting and important to have one foot in the advertising landscape, but also another foot in this broader area of opportunity. And from an innovation roadmap perspective, obviously can't give away the projects that we've got coming up, but they are focusing on tech impact and effectiveness, as we've been talking about lots, and the community, and that community is 529.
Love that. It's very exciting, and really speaks to the success that Billion Dollar Boy has had, and being the Pathfinder of the last 10 years, are really helping shape even just that advertising space. But you've managed to build such a strong entity that you've been able to, off the back of that, fuel other ventures, from that tech play early on, from Companion, but now 529. Excited to hear what's more to come. One of the big ideas this year that we've seen is the Creator Era. You launched 2025 with the Creator Era reports, and your Cannes rooftop event builds on that with a clear message. Creators aren't just talent, they're strategic partners, even entrepreneurs. They're shaping the future of brand strategy, media, and commerce. What does the Creator Era mean to you, Tom? I
think we're living in it. it's reflective, and it's interesting because Becky and the team coined this term, and we've since seen it being picked up and used elsewhere, which is very flattering. No, I think it just reflects that creators are here now. They're established. If you were in Cannes this year, and if you're not, I'm sure you would have seen this too. They are everywhere. Like, all of the brands, all of the platforms are talking about creators. They're also talking about things like AI and the future of content creation. But it's a real marked change versus the way that the industry was talking about and considering creator marketing even 3 years ago. So I think we're in a period where the creators are being taken seriously as a channel that is capable of delivering short-term and long-term goals.
What are the biggest shifts that you're seeing from creators as a talent on a campaign to long-term partners? And what needs to evolve from systems, structures, models for this to scale?
I think that the shift from short term to long term, I think that brands are okay. So I'd break it down into two different things. There's the kind of short term and long term thinking from a brand side, and short term and long term thinking from a creator side. And I think that the short term / long term approach with brands is that they are realizing now that the campaign based approach, activation based approach, where they're engaging a creator on a one off capacity versus a longer term relationship, actually does not do them many favors when it comes to everything from cost and as a result impact, because it is more costly to work with a creator on a one-off basis than it is over a longer term, but also the relationship doesn't seem as authentic to audiences. So I think we're seeing the rise now again of ambassador programs. For us, we work with Disney Plus on an ambassador basis. Ulta is another one. Stitch Fix is another one. And these are big ambassador programs. This is working with lots of creators. But the recognition and acknowledgement within those businesses is that the results that you see are better, and the cost of the programs on an output basis is significantly reduced versus working piecemeal in a slightly less coordinated manner. And you see a lot more value add from the creators. You see a lot more authenticity and reception, like positive reception from consumers as a result. So from a short and long term perspective that's just one example. And then from a creator perspective, creators are in general, essentially independent contractors, freelancers. And so they operate in a kind of feast or famine mindset where they don't necessarily know if they're working on campaign bases all the time when their next paycheck's going to come and how they're going to pay their rent. So that short-termism then results in poor decision making can result, if they're not surrounded by the right people guiding them, in decisions that might have an impact on their career longer term. So what we're trying to do is educate brands that it's more in their interest to do it, and also through 529, educate creators and work with them to help them understand that they can have more impact if they're able to convince clients that working with them over a longer term and showing the client really the impact that they can deliver versus just taking the paycheck and putting a piece of content out is going to result in them seeing long-term success, which is what the majority of them are actually looking for.
And this insight really comes from having that. It really sounds like it's deep in the culture to always be thinking like a partner, to always be collaborating. You used the words comfort before as well. It sounds like that just being in your DNA and being the $1 Billion Boys DNA has helped launch things like 529 that have then facilitated getting that insight to be able to bridge those worlds together better.
Yeah, I think, look, we hear a lot in this industry about scale, 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 treat creators as a media buy. I think you can take that approach. We've obviously seen that that is the approach that like Publicis is taking, for example, with the way that they're framing the acquisitions of Influential and latterly Captivate. But from our perspective, yes, scale is really important. Being able to deliver scale is really important for brands. But scale at the expense of relationships doesn't result in good work, and it doesn't result in the great impact that you want. So, you know, we're able to deliver scale through the scale of Billion Dollar Boy. We're a big business. We have a lot of people. We're AI enabled, and using companion tech enables us to deliver that scale. But 529 enables us to make sure that that scale is accompanied by the creator instincts and insights and relationships that result not just in all of the great things that come with scale and with technology and making investment-led decisions or planning your investment based on what you expect the output to be, which we can do really effectively through the tech, through our measurement partners, through AI. But it doesn't become transactional. You end up with 100 creators who are really dissatisfied with the experience that they've had with you because you're just treating them like an audience that you're buying. Like, that's not how they think about themselves. So from our perspective, scale and relationships have to go hand in hand, and that's where you see good results.
So this and that.
This and that.
I love it. Should we go straight to the this or that questions then?
Let's do it.
So I'm going to go through more of a rapid fire style. If you want to have just a one-word answer, you can. If you want to go in a tangent, you can. If you want to say it's neither nor, it's just both, you can. Whatever way you'd like. Conversion or community?
I think community first. Conversion comes from engaging with the community authentically.
Community strategy or media plan?
I'd say community strategy. What we are doing with the media plan is trying to engage with audiences. So if you understand the community, you're operating on the basis of the insights that are going to deliver the results.
Fantastic answer. Campaign or program?
We've already talked about it. Program. I mean, they're more effective.
Yeah.
Unless you are doing something that is a particular campaign launch that you're looking to take a disruptive approach because you know that's what's needed to deliver the cut through, and you need to take a campaign-based approach on that basis. But generally, programs are more effective from our perspective.
Reach or relevance?
Both. I think, you know, they're both equally as important.
AI optimized or human curated?
God, this is a cop-out. Both. You know, you've got, as I was just saying, like, you can take a tech and AI facilitated scale approach, but you need to accompany that with relationships, and I think that's important.
Insight or instinct?
I'm quite a believer in following your instincts but backing it up with insights. I think if you start from an insight perspective, you can go down a path of looking so broad that you spend all your time searching, and you actually never end up getting to a solution. So I think we take more of an instinct-led but insight-backed approach.
I like that approach. That actually, just to give a bit of space to that as well, when you think from instinct, you might think in wildly different directions that you would just never have come up with if you just went pure insight.
Yeah.
And some of the best work happens from things you just couldn't imagine. Being first or being best?
So I think my colleagues would have a slightly different view to me. I'm a great believer in being the best, and I spend a lot of my time thinking about that. And we have some incredible people in the business who are thinking slightly differently, thinking like how can we be first, and I think that's a good tension.
ROAS or Robbie?
I'm going to go with Robbie. Let's drive lasting impact.
Yes, I love that. Brand lift or MMM?
I think they're both equally important to measure, and obviously brand lift is actually, it's easier to measure. MMM is typically requiring, at least from our experience, a lot more stakeholders and conversations, and it's harder to do. Once you've done it, and you've managed to make those systems work, incredibly impactful. But if you need a kind of an easier win or an easier gauge of how you're going, brand lift is the one to go for.
Love that. Tom, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.